Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2. Is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle the next big hit for Switch? What's up, everybody? It's Zach from Switch Force. I've got Gabe here, and we are prepared to give you our review and let you know if this game is for you. I think it's safe to say we can start off, it has lived up and exceeded expectations.
We like it a whole lot, don't we, Zach?
Yeah, it is a very good game, and I think what makes it even more exciting, in my opinion, is the departure not only for the Switch as a platform, but for Mario as a character. So this is diving into a whole new genre, and sometimes that's a risky move, right? You got Davide there, you know that Miyamoto is bestowing his characters to Yves Guillemot and Ubisoft. What will they do? Will it turn out? It's sort of crazy. We see the leaks, Rabid Peach is taking selfies of herself. Is this going to be a mockery? And no, they're able to cultivate that Nintendo magic in a way that I think you gotta just golf clap this up the whole way through.
Yeah, like everybody else, it was hard not to be apprehensive in the beginning when we first saw the leaks. Like, you hear Rabbids period and you're like, nope. But they did a really good job of, like you said, just sprinkling in the Nintendo, I can say the word, in the Nintendo magic, and making it something worthwhile, and something that I do feel is like a very good addition to the Nintendo library. And like you said, something that's different, because we have a shooter, we have a fighter. You didn't mention ARMS, but that game's out there too. We have a racing game, we have a big single player open world thing, and now it's time for like a little bit RPG love. We're not getting another one till Xenoblade. If you want to count Fire Emblem Warriors, even though that's not really an RPG at all. So I think that this fills in a gap that needed filling in. Like, we needed a strategy game of some kind on Switch.
Yeah, and there was a lot of hype after E3 behind this, not only because of the partnership, but because of some of the early previews. Like, hey, there is more substance to Mario plus Rabbids than maybe you would have expected. There is more variety and more strategy there than perhaps we saw. And I'll even say that from the demo I played at E3, it definitely requires more thought and more foresight and more planning and preparation than what I hoped for, which is great, because we definitely wanted to see more difficulty, a little bit more challenge, and there's just so many cool moments, right? Setting Luigi to Overwatch and seeing Mario shoot one of the evil Rabbids, and then as he runs away, you got Luigi coming in with his vacuum sniper, creating these combo shots, and the boss battle. So much good stuff there. Before we dive into some more of the deeper details, though, Gabe, who would you say this game is for? I think that's something that a lot of Switch owners look to is, okay, hey, I've got, Zelda, probably got Mario Kart. Who is this for? There's a bunch of options out there. The indie lineup is really swelling. Is this something that I should buy?
If you're into strategy RPGs of any kind, I feel like this could be for you once you get over the fact that this is going to be simpler. Right, there's not going to be as much stat tracking. There isn't there's not armor stats. There's no leveling up your weapons. You get newer weapons.
There is a skill tree, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, there is a skill tree, but it's not as detailed as I mean, we'll say it early in the video, like XCOM, because it gets a lot of comparisons. Like, people say, oh, this is Nintendo meets XCOM, and sort of, but on a much less detailed level. And I don't think that's a bad thing. XCOM has permadeath and all these other systems that could be off-putting for certain people, right? Like, it's not something that's going to be for everybody. Just like, Dark Souls isn't for everybody. And I'm not saying that XCOM is like Dark Souls at all. But I feel like this is just... Look, if you liked any of the Mario RPGs in the past, not that this is like them at all, but it scratches the same itch, I feel like. It's like you're still stomping on enemies, you still have your hammer weapons. Like, a lot of what made the past Mario RPGs great is still in this. So this is a very broad XCOM, right? This is gonna cater to more people. A 10-year-old can play this, but a 27-year-old can play and enjoy it just as much, if not more.
Absolutely. And I think, where it really excels, specifically on the Switch, is twofold. One, it provides another long single-player experience, something that, yes, there's single-player in Splatoon 2, but that's mostly multiplayer-driven. ARMS, almost exclusively multiplayer-driven. And not since Zelda, Mario Kart 8, again, multiplayer-driven. Not since Zelda have we had a major tentpole title be campaign centric, right? So that's one. And then two, this is a phenomenal portable game. It works just as well at home, but a great portable game because of the bite-sized nature of the battles. And yes, some of them can take 20, 30 minutes if you're in a boss fight, but in general, like, it's a fantastic pick up and play game, the way that the chapters and the worlds are broken down. And I will say, to your point of like this being a broader, more accessible XCOM, I think Ubisoft deserves a lot of credit for doing something that Nintendo is fantastic at doing, which is using the Mario characters to introduce players to a new genre. So they did that with the sports styles over and over again. Super Mario Strikers, Mario Baseball. They're able to find ways to convey the fun aspects of those types of games, utilizing the Mario characters and opening it up to a wider audience, right? And that's something that we have seen with Mario RPG and Paper Mario in the past, and I think that Ubisoft has found that same style and are able to convey, like, hey, strategy games are really awesome. Let's boil it down a little bit, right? And let's make something that utilizes the Mario characters to make this a great experience, like you said, on both the low end and still on the high end.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with what you're saying here. I kind of wanted to point out what the package is in general, because a lot of people were asking that.
Sure.
We were able to stream the game early for people, and people were saying, hey, like, is this worth $60? Like, how much replayability is there? Those are a lot of the questions that people have, so I kind of want to touch on those a little bit here, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, story-wise, the campaign. It took me about anywhere from 15 to 20 hours. Honestly, I didn't keep too much track because I was making videos, so I would go back and replay certain things. But I think it was closer to the 20-hour mark, just because I was going back and finding a lot of the collectibles, and there are a lot of collectibles to find. There are a lot of perfects to get. Some of the collectibles are actually like really cool, like beautiful concept art. You have like awesome music, some 3D models of certain characters that are in the game. So the collectibles are worth getting. And the collectibles, usually you get them through puzzle solving. And that's another aspect of the game that we've got to talk about a little bit, other than like the RPG elements and the strategy combat. You have puzzle elements throughout the way, and they are not the most difficult thing in the world, but further in the game, they are satisfying. Early on, they're like super easy. It's just push a block here, press a button here, and I was off put by that in the beginning. I was like, okay, these puzzles are like way too easy. Maybe they just wanted to check a box on the like box cover saying, oh, in the back of the box saying, oh, this has puzzles. But no, like towards the end, they do definitely have some puzzles. Another thing that like people were put off by a little bit, 4 worlds, right? That doesn't sound like a lot. And it isn't.
That's something that I was worried about, but even the first world, I clocked in at around 3.5 hours, and that's the first world, which is the easiest, and like you said, includes those simple puzzles that are mostly just, hey, move over here, collect this, and move over here and collect that, and it still took me 3.5 hours, and that's not because they bog it down with a whole lot of load screens and a whole lot of repetition. It really is because there's a pretty solid amount of content, I feel.
Yeah, and, to stay on the topic of the package, right? 4 worlds took me about maybe 15 to 20 hours to beat it. That included going back to finding some collectibles. The challenge modes. Once you beat a world, you can go back and complete 10 different challenges that give you more upgrades, more coins, and more orbs that allow you to level up your skill tree, as well as buying new weapons. And there are a ton of weapons to unlock in the game, a ton. That's another thing where the puzzle solving comes into play. Solving some of those do get you some pretty sweet weapons. I wish there was like more of a variety of weapons, because there's tiers to weapons, right? After each level, world, your party like levels up, and they have more HP, they have new weapons available to them, and those weapons, let's say there's like 4 of them, they all do the same damage pretty much. The only difference is the effect that they do. We have ink, we have bounce, there's all kinds of effects. And
honey.
Yes, honey is one of my favorite ones, because it makes the enemies not be able to actually move on the grid at all. But that stuff is worthwhile as far as getting. So those challenges are very, very cool, and they can be difficult, like very difficult.
And are they different enough from the normal battles that you'll find as you progress, the first time through the world? Are they different enough to come back and do, or did it just feel like remixes of the battles that you already had completed?
The thing is, there are they're tiers. Like the challenges range from very easy to medium to hard to very hard. So there are actual difficulty tiers for each one of the challenges, and you know the difficulty tier before you start it. And when I went back and played some of the challenges early on, I was like solo leveled. I knew that me playing a very hard challenge wasn't going to go well, so I didn't even try it. Now post game that I have my characters maxed out in a sense, I can definitely go back and do that. But they can be something as simple as, hey, just defeat all these enemies in X amount of turns, or the enemies are attacking first and you have to figure out a way to survive. And but they are still remixes of what the actual battles in the main game are. Some of them are still like reach the zone or escort X character. I'm trying to remain like light of spoilers, so just escort a character to like this other area. So they're still remixes, but they do have like twists. One of them
of a twist, so it's not just like, oh, hey, you're playing through the game again on hard difficulty.
Yeah, one of them is just like, hey, fireballs randomly fall throughout the entire level, and they set you on fire, and when you're on fire, your character just like runs around aimlessly, and it takes you out of cover often. So like there are like cool little additions to those challenges that make them interesting and worthwhile.
Right, and there's also co-op, which I wanted to touch on, just kind of rounding out the package, right?
Yeah.
There are co-op challenges that correlate to the 4 worlds. And for better or worse, they're unlocked as you progress through the game. So after you beat World 1, you unlock the World 1 co-op. After World 2, you unlock the World 2 co-op. And your characters, your weapons, all carries over for single player. So it sort of is something that I feel like they want you to do in tandem. Like, hey, beat World 1 and then do World 1 co-op. Or, that maybe was the intention. But they're very cool and very fun, and it expands your party from 3 characters to 4 characters so that each of you and your friend can control 2. So me and my brother, I obviously gave him Rabbid Peach and Rabbid Luigi because he doesn't like the Rabbids, and I took Mario and Luigi, and we had a fantastic time going through these challenges. The first world ones weren't that difficult, but it's really fun to be able to utilize 2 players and like go back and forth. So either I can do my complete turn and then pass it over to you, or I could just use one character, pass it over, pass it back, and you can, I feel, even expand upon some of the team tactics, because there are things like the team jump and Overwatch and different passives that help.
By Overwatch, you mean like Steely Stare and
yes,
yeah.
Not Overwatch like Blizzard. Overwatch as in like, that's what it's called in XCOM, where you're passively waiting for someone to move. But yes, just to be
here,
clear.
Luigi's is called Steely Stare, and Mario's Hero Sight is Mario's, and they're the 2 characters that have. Well, actually, Peach has it too. But I forget.
Well, and it's really cool because in this kind of then I guess weaves back into the game. I thought, okay, we're gonna have an attack, we're gonna have an ability, but there's multiple abilities. There are melee or close range, or I guess alternate weapons.
They are alternate because they're not always close range.
Right, and there's just some solid variety there in terms of like, okay, I have Peach, Rabbid Peach. She has a team heal, as well as a personal shield.
Yeah,
and, like,
that reduces incoming damage to her specifically, not to the rest of your party.
Right, so deciding like which I want to use, because you can only use 1 per turn, and like, I don't know, I felt like, as much as we do need to clarify that, hey, this is not as deep as XCOM, that within the battles, they do a nice job of adding elements that maybe the trailer doesn't show off. A great example is, and this is a very early game enemy, the Smash Sugars, right?
Yes. You attack them, they rush at you.
Right, and I just felt like that alone was a cool twist, because previously you're just fighting Rabbids and some mini bosses and things like that, and okay, attack, move, utilize the terrain. There's a lot of verticality, pipes that you can go through to, find a better position, utilize the pipes for extra movement, team jump off of your friends to traverse more of the area. But once these guys come into play, there's one battle in particular where it throws you into a close quarters section with them, and you kind of have to decide, like, am I going to attack? Am I going to spread my team out? Am I going to try to draw them this way? And they'll even throw cool elements like a chain chomp that attacks. It's a non-partisan chain chomp. Will attack either the good guys or the bad guys. He attacks whoever's closest. And it created this like very unique tactical encounter where it was like, okay, sometimes I don't want to attack the Smashers because I don't want to pull them closer to me. I'm content with them being farther away from me, but closer to the chain chomp, and that's going to deal more damage than I can possibly deal. So, just a nice
quick
example
tip
of how there's
on the Smashers, right? And this isn't spoilery. the best thing to do with them is to separate Mario and Luigi on opposite sides of the battlefield, and
shoot them back and forth.
Yeah, Steely Stare and Hero Sight, and you attack them, and they'll rush towards you. But then the other character will attack with his like power, so then he'll rush towards him. But then you have your power activated, so you rush. It's so amazing. I love it.
Yeah, there's some really good combos, especially because you can, with your 3 characters, activate some of those abilities still on your turn. So if I use Mario first and activate Hero Sight, I can get that to like activate while I'm using Luigi, if the Smasher charges at Luigi. So as you're saying, you can kind of create these really awesome combos. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, Gabe, is throughout the entirety of the game, does that enemy variety and then the mechanical uniqueness, is that something that is pervasive throughout the 4 worlds, or is that something that kind of runs out after World 1, World 2?
The thing about the enemies is that there's a decent amount of variety. You have the bouncers, you have the smashers, you have a few other kinds, but at a certain point, the next world just has the same enemies, except that different skins and different like elemental things to them. So they'll look completely different.
Less mechanical.
Yeah, they'll have more HP. They'll have different like weapon like varieties or whatever, but fundamentally it's the same enemy type. But that's not to say that new enemies don't get introduced throughout the entirety of the game. They definitely do. Like World 3 and 4 definitely they still introduce like new enemies that you haven't like seen before. So I feel like it does add at least 1 or 2, usually 1 new enemy type per world, and you already have like the 3 or 4 like base enemy levels. So like that's probably one of the things that I wish there was more of. Like more enemy variety would have been nice. But the ones that are here, like they're like so fine tuned, and the thing I enjoyed about the fact that there isn't a ton of them, you get to know all the types. So in the beginning of a battle, you get to like scope out the area, and you see how many bouncers there are, how many smashers there are, how many like little ghosts there might be, like whatever the case may be, and you know how those characters behave because you've dealt with them before. And yes, now they have extra HP. HP and the weapon can like do bounce on you now because it couldn't do it before. But you still know their behaviors, and you're still able to strategize and plan out accordingly.
Yeah, and familiarity breeds confidence, confidence breeds creativity, and maybe that's something that they wanted to implement. And it seems to me that it's less like a laziness on their part and more a desire to not overwhelm. And so I think some people are going to wish, like you and I, wish there was some more enemies, wish there was some more weapon variety, but it sounds like, and from what I've experienced, there is enough that you're not going to be like, oh gosh, this feels incomplete.
Yeah, I mean, and there's still like decent variety because every mid boss in every world is different. Every boss is like completely different. So you're not going to be fighting the exact same enemies over and over. And I mean, you will sometimes. Like you're probably going to deal with a lot of smashers in the game and a lot of bouncers. They're like common enemy types. But more stuff does get introduced.
And they do a nice job of mixing in different terrain elements, different traversal elements, different chain chomp type elements. The boss fights, were you satisfied with them? I know that the boss fights are, without spoiling anything, an opportunity for them to bring in some fun stuff. Did you feel that the 4 boss fights, were they 4 solid choices and 4 fun battles?
Yes, and again, non-spoilery, but my favorite boss fights are the last 2. To me, they're the best boss fights in the game. The last 3, if I include the mid-world boss from the last world. Well,
that's very good news.
Stay tuned. There are some I know for a fact you're going to lose your mind in World 4 when you see a certain something.
Gosh.
Regardless, though. The boss fights,
nervous, Gabe.
They did some really like cool and creative stuff. That again, I don't want to talk about because of spoilers, and we're going to avoid those at all costs. But
far better experience yourself.
Yeah, people are in for a treat. I was very happy with the boss fights. The last one's very difficult.
And they do mix up the gameplay as well. It's not just like, it's a more HP fight. Like there's definitely different tactics required, different options.
Oh yeah, again, especially in the later ones that again I won't touch on. But
and they. While the skill tree isn't like, this isn't like Commander style opening up, an entire armada of employees and researching new, different abilities and whatnot. The skill tree was fun from the standpoint of like being able to add a second team jump, being able to add a second dash, and being able to up your damage of this, and being able to add the alternate weapon, because you start off very simplistically. And I think that is one thing I'll say. If you have the chance to check this game out via a friend, or if you rent it, or if you buy it, make sure you play through it at least World 1, because the opening chapters are, yes, very simple, but it does quickly ramp up, and it introduces things rather slowly in terms of like your options. So it will ramp up from the enemy standpoint, and then it will ramp up from your standpoint subsequently. And before you know it, you'll be able to spend orbs to buy new skills. You'll be able to purchase weapons. I mean, when you first start, you can't even open up the pause menu, so that shows you, where it's at initially. But yes, play through World 1. Peach has a hub world where you can go and get new weapons. You can check out all your collectibles. That's where co-op is located. So there is, I feel like they did flesh this out. Like I feel like there is quite a bit. It just, you need to give it the first couple hours to get there, and then I feel like you'll be rightfully rewarded.
I wouldn't even say the first couple hours. Just give it like 30 minutes, and understand that the cool stuff is coming, and don't worry about the easy difficulty. Just learn the mechanics, learn how the game itself works, and use that time for that. Because, like I said, while not XCOM, there is challenge, especially if you chase those perfects. Those perfects are they were very important to me playing. Like, if I saw that the battle wasn't going my way and I knew I wasn't going to get that perfect, I stopped and I restarted the battle automatically, just because that's just the type of person I am when it comes to playing these games.
And by perfect, Gabe means they will set a number of rounds, like, hey, we want you to complete this in 6 rounds without having any of your teammates be KO'd. And they don't tell you that preemptively, but if you get to the end, you can, go back and restart once you beat the world, to go and, like, after you can restart mid-battle, like Gabe's saying, or if you didn't get it perfect and you want it, you can go back afterwards and play the chapters individually. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the perfects basically give you better trophies, and then also more coins that you can utilize to purchase new, better, higher grade weapons.
That's exactly what they do. Yeah, more coins and the gold trophy, and instead of the silver. I mean, I'm sure there's something lower than silver. I just never got it.
Right. Yeah. I feel like failing is pretty hard, but getting perfects does require quite a bit of strategy.
Oh, eventually you'll fail. You will.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I think that's important for people. Team composition. That is something that this game definitely wants you to mess with. They introduce 4 Mario characters, 4 Rabbids characters. Did you find yourself switching back and forth, or did you kind of find a go-to loadout? Because they do dole the characters out throughout the worlds, correct?
Yes, you do not get them all right away. You definitely don't get them all right away. But unlocking a new character is such a treat. Like, there's like cinematics in the game. There's a story to the game. So coming along a new character and like unlocking him or her, fantastic experience. I got excited every time. The way I went about character selection, I would say I played about maybe 60% as Mario, Rabbids, Peach, and Luigi. That was like my that's my default.
That's my current go-to. Yeah.
Yeah, but towards the end, I started falling in love with a couple other characters. Peach, regular old Peach, she's pretty cool. My hands down favorite, other than Rabbids Peach, is Rabbids Luigi. He has some very cool abilities. Like, if you upgrade his skill tree enough, like his slide will do like 100 damage and plus a vamp. Whoa. Which means that like every time that enemy gets attacked, like let's say the enemy has 500 health, you take away 100 with the dash, but you cause vamp. So now every time that you attack him with a character, you heal that character. So
interesting.
If I attack it with Mario gets some health back, which came in super handy towards the end. Like it basically served as having like 2 healers on my team, because Rabbids Luigi isn't inherently a healer. He doesn't have any abilities that let you heal, but the vamp effect on the enemies, it's super useful eventually when the enemies do get more difficult.
Yeah, and there's just really good cohesive glue here holding everything together. I mean, I think one really smart decision is that the chapters are divided into 2 or 3 battles, and you do not regain health between those battles. You will replen completely between chapters, but the fact that they require you to be kind of on your A game, and it can't just be like, oh, I'm going to throw this battle away because it's easy. No, it's important for you to try and maintain as much health as possible for that second and third fight, where eventually you're going to be kind of pressing and have characters that are down in the 30 to 50 HP range, and that's something that I found really cool. And then, as you mentioned, the cinematics, the story, the way that they brought that together. The opening cinematic is gorgeous,
beautiful,
and really cool. The in-game graphics and cinematics are not as good, and they're not at the caliber of Mario Odyssey, but they do look still really good, very vibrant. They've got a lot of creativity in the environments and in the overall world, and I think they just, I don't know, this isn't just a game where like, oh, they have a cool mechanic and yeah, it's worth playing. Like, it does feel like it's presented very well, and maybe it's not on par with a in-house Nintendo adventure, but it's pretty close. And I think that in spite of some of the shortcomings, which are few and far between, we're kind of proving to ourselves once again that there is enough variety here. There is a lot of diversity. They keep things fresh. You're able to have some input, and even small things that go unspoken, like the fact that Luigi's a sniper, right? That's not something that they introduce to you. They don't say like, hey, here's the sniper character, learn how to use the sniper character, but it's something that you pick up on, and it's something that can really impact the way that you navigate these fights.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll say just about the character composition very quickly. Don't be afraid to try out new enemies, because new heroes. Heroes is what they call them in the game. But yes, use them. There are a lot of very specific times where a hero that has a area of effect weapon is going to be way more useful than, let's say, Luigi, because he has a longer range, but he can attack one enemy at a time. And sometimes you have a bunch of enemies together that area of effect is probably the best way to go. You can switch characters on the fly in the beginning of every battle. You can't change mid battle. Once the battle starts, and that's what you have. But
right.
You can go into Battle HQ before every fight, and depending on what you see, get the lay of the land, and then equip your characters accordingly.
Yeah, and that's even a nice addition there, right? Before the battle, you can bring up Battle HQ, you can deal with all of that sort of pre-battle stuff, and then within the battle, they have a Tacticam where you can kind of get that overhead perspective. I will say, I wish that there was more camera control in the sense that you are controlling Beepo, not the characters, and it doesn't, like, you eventually get the hang of it, but early on I was like running Mario into walls because I was trying to guide Mario through the pipes as opposed to, navigating Beepo through. Camera control, wish there was a little bit more of just spinning, because the worlds are cool and I want to see every angle of them. But once you play through, like we said, the first hour or so, that kind of all washes into the background and you're much more just enjoying the game.
Well, most of the time you can spin. The only time it doesn't let you spin is when you're like in a I think they, like, I don't know what they call it, but it's like a quote-unquote cinematic.
Forced perspective.
Yeah. Like,
like the forced perspective when all of a sudden you're like, oh, walking on a bridge.
Well, yeah, that's because they want you to, get the...
I know. It feels a little unnatural at times. Couple quick hits here as we move towards the end. Favorite world?
I have to say the last one.
Okay. Favorite hero?
That isn't Mario?
You can say Mario.
No, it's not even Mario. Man, honestly, Rabbids Luigi came through in the clutch in the end for me.
He's your boy.
Yeah, but Rabbids Peach, man, she is not annoying. She's cool, man. She is a charming... She's taking all these selfies in the most inopportune times. I like her. I like her a lot.
Yeah, and that was going to be my final little quick hit there is, did the Rabbids grow on you? Do you love the Rabbids?
I love Rabbids Peach, for sure. I don't know if I love them. I mean, I didn't spend the same amount of time with all of them that I do with Rabbids Peach. Rabbids Peach is my constant. If you remember Lost,
Daniel Faraday would be very happy with this.
Yeah, and Rabbids Peach is where it's at for me.
That's very cool. I think that this game is going to impress a lot of people. I think, is it Game of the Year material? Is it going to clash with Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey? No. But is it possibly one of the really strong early recommendations for Switch? Yes.
I think it's a top 5 Switch game for me. Maybe top 3.
Yeah, if you had to put a score on this, and we don't, but if you did, what would you put on this?
I feel like a very, very strong 7.5 or a very light 8. I know that's like a weird thing to say, but I'm right there. I think the game's great, so I want to say 8. It's just I wish there was a little bit more like enemy variety. Another World would have been great, but then the game might have been a little too long because the game's like kind of long as is. Other than that, like armor would like if they make a Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle 2, I want to see armor. Like I want to see like more RPG elements where you can like keep track of way more stats that you can currently keep track of, upgrading weapons, like because if you have a favorite like aesthetically pleasing weapon to you,
right,
eventually it becomes like a non-factor anymore because you get more powerful weapons.
So you want them basically to take the XCOM path and give you like an expansion that's like Mario plus Rabbids Fireball Edition. It's like adds all these elements and makes things super hardcore.
I want a sequel.
A sequel would be really good, and it'll be interesting to see, if this is successful on the sales front. It's definitely successful on the quality front and on the fun front. If it's successful on the sales front, does this either strengthen the partnership between Nintendo and Ubisoft and or encourage them to hand out other franchises or more opportunities for Mario to find himself, in the hands of another developer?
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. We have to wait and see how this does. Honestly, I just want people to give the game a chance. That's the thing that concerns me the most, because the Rabbids are a big hurdle to jump over. But
it's not something that for either of us really impeded. In fact, it enhanced in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mind it. Just a couple of quick hits.
It definitely doesn't.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it definitely doesn't have the obnoxious like, please shut this off feel that some of the early Wii Rabbids games had for me.
Yeah, no, this isn't even comparable in my opinion. But I wanted to give a couple last quick hits just
sure.
Before we close out. If you have a friend, right, that has the game, give it a try for a little while. Play some of the co-op, and maybe that will like sell you on it.
And play for more than 30 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so good.
Yeah, if you can play it for more than 30 minutes. And I know that we've been like, pretty much glowing like this entire video, but I do want to say like it's not a perfect game.
No.
I've touched on like, hey, more worlds would have been nice, more enemy variety, and all this other stuff. But the story is something that we barely talked about, and for good reason. Spoilers, right? I'm not going to say any spoilers. Don't worry. I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was like legitimately a fun ride. And it has a cool like closing. Like it doesn't do the thing where like they leave it open so they can like sell you like a complete like DLC like thing later. Like this story is done.
They do have DLC, but that's not the reason why.
Yeah. I mean that was basically like I really hope people give it a chance.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like yes, I don't think it's a 9 or a 10, but not because like there's some glaring failure or glaring omission or glaring inadequacy. It's more just like it doesn't have maybe that extra oomph that something like Breath of the Wild like wows you with, or something that typically the 3D Mario games wow you with. It really is fun. It really is different. It's a really great addition, especially year one for the Switch. I feel like it's got to be something that beyond the ports and beyond the initial Zelda purchase, you got to look at for your Switch library. I think this is what people have been clamoring for. The people that say like too many indies, too many ports. This is something wholly unique, wholly original, and can only be picked up on the Switch. It's an exclusive. It's unique. It's a new genre for Nintendo, at least for Mario, and it really is excellent. And I think we'll close here with, for that DLC, if they could add a character, who do you want it to be?
I almost don't want to say anything because I know things about the game that I can't say.
I will say mine.
Yeah.
I would love for them to add a dynamic duo of Rabid Wario and regular Waluigi.
Okay.
Please don't say anything. No spoilers. And we've kept this pretty spoiler free, so hopefully that is good for you. And I think this game is good for most of you out there. So definitely let us know your take if you had a chance to play it. Let us know if you plan to pick it up. Let us know if you have any questions. Let us know. In the meantime, we're going to get back to checking out those co-op challenges and bringing you some of those. Thank you so much for watching. If you stayed through the whole video, hopefully we gave you guys a good take on why Mario plus Rabbids is a success and why it is a near, please go check this out, pickup for fans of the strategy genre, fans of Mario, and pretty much just Switch owners alike. I feel like there's something to enjoy here for most players. I know it's a very cliche phrase, but it really does strike that Nintendo style of like appealing to just about everybody. So that is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, a really solid outing as Nintendo lets Ubisoft have the reins and take Mario on this crazy, zany quest. We were impressed. We love it. It's another good one for your Switch. Until the next good one, hopefully that's Fire Emblem Warriors. We also have Pokken Tournament. There's Mario Odyssey, literally a month and a half away at this point. So it's going to be a great fall, and we're glad to have you aboard. Thanks so much for watching, Gabe. Thank you for your thoughts, and thank you for reviewer style just rolling through this game.
Yeah, I had to. I was so excited for this. So.
Yeah, and if anyone out there would like to pick Gabe up as a reviews freelancer, he's not for hire. So,
nope. Exclusive contract.
We're going to keep him on Switch Force, and hopefully you guys stay on Switch Force for the rest of the Switch lineup this year. Until that time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Switch Force out.